Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, world. Thank you for joining us on the midweek edition of Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Femi Ojo is my name. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you, knowing fully well that you have made us and this program a part of your morning routine where you get informed and, of course, inundated with what is going on around you and, of course, conversations that is good for you. Deep, frank, honest conversations about these great nation full of good people called Nigeria. And Nigerians, this is what we do here every day, 7 a.m. is a Morning Spring o'clock. We are live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television NG, and of course on StarTimes DTT, channel 190 and StarTimes DTT. Thank you for joining us once again. We look through the papers and of course we get talking about issues that is of public good. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Daniel.
Yeah, good morning, Femi.
Yeah, good morning. We are back here.
Absolutely. Trust you had a great night.
Yeah, I did. And yours?
Yeah, great.
Very well.
Good morning to you, our distinguished viewers. Thank you once again for joining us on Morning Spring. This is Western Spring Television. Daniel Emeka, it's my name. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It's a great day. It promises to be a great day. So get up, go out there and achieve your goals. It's always a fresh start, whether it's a Monday or a Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it is. You can actually start on a Friday. It's never too late to start something good, something great. It is a great day, promises to be a great show. You do not want to miss any part of the program. And we do not take you for granted because without you, we won't be here. Like I always say, thank you so much for joining us once again. Femi, you know what has been happening in Nigeria? We've always had, one drama after another. Finally, we have Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the suspended Kogi Central senator, resuming, joining them for plenary after a suspension.
6 months.
After 6 months suspension. Then again, the most striking one for me, which is quite surprising because people rarely resign in Nigeria. The Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Jeffrey Uche Nnaji, has finally resigned. We talked about that case of, certificate forgery yesterday. So he resigned his appointment as minister with the president, and the president has accepted his resignation. Yeah, according to the presidential spokesman, Bayo Onanuga. But it brings to question, Femi, the kind of system we operate here. I see it as the failure of a system. How do I mean? Here is someone was appointed minister in August 2023. For over 2 years, he served as minister. He was screened by the National Assembly. They did not discover any, discrepancies in his certificate. So after 2 years, after over 2 years, he is resigning his appointment now as minister. What does it say about our system?
Right. And very well, because the issue of system failure, and especially because before you are appointed as a minister, any appointment at the federal level of that magnitude, you are vetted.
Absolutely.
Actually, not just the nomination by your party or your state or the presidency or the president having a special interest in you or because you have worked with him or a political reward, even if the system turned such person up because of his political affiliation, he or she must still be vetted by DSS, by every agency possible. And then you go to CCB, Code of Conduct Bureau, to lay bare whatever you are bringing on board, certificate-wise, and then the, what is it called, declaration of asset and all of those things. So does that mean, obviously, all of these things wasn't picked up at that level, at the highest level? That's the executive, a cabinet member.
Where they should be meticulous.
I'm telling you. So this is a systemic failure. And actually, it started as an allegation, actually, because till now, actually, we can just infer by logic. It hasn't, because the resignation that he tendered and the acceptance by the presidency, nothing was given as a reason, actually, by the presidency, from the president to say, oh, it's because of this. They only say, oh, the president appreciates you or whatever, we wish you all the best and all of those things. So he might want to say, possibly doesn't want to cause a distraction to the government. He doesn't want to use his personal baggage to cause a dent on the president and the renewed agenda or whatever. But the point is this, we wouldn't have gotten here.
Yeah.
And I think that's your point. If actually everybody, every agency, every desk,
if they did their job,
they're supposed to do due diligence, has done this, wouldn't be distracted. Exactly. The moment you get to that level, you're supposed to be focused and moving on.
We are talking about a minister, for God's sake.
That's what I'm saying. A cabinet member, actually, an executive member of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, now former. These are the issues. And we've seen situations, not just in the issue of allegation forgery, allegations of certificate forgery alone, of which appointments are being made and reversed because the name or some of the names being turned up, they are currently occupied in a place, looking like a desk. There is no coordination.
Absolutely.
Actually, and then you say, oh, when people now shout, oh, the appointment will be reversed, and so say, oh, we don't know that he's still serving here, or possibly the appointment of a dead person, and all of those things, and it shows the level of coordination. Yeah. Before all of these things are turned up, there is, one of the earliest appointments that are made by any administration is the chief of staff. The moment any president or governor comes on board, you appoint your chief of staff because it's the gatekeeper, actually, who coordinates the rest of the staff members. And of course, the secretary of the government of the federation or the secretary of the state government. And so whatever, what is it called now? Appointment is being made by the people who are vetted. The office of the secretary, either at the state level or at the federal level, should still look into it and see, because he or she, whoever is appointed there, should be the one to say, finally, can we churn this out? And here we are with Mr. Naji. But then flip it over. I've been seeing some cryptic applause for many persons applauding him to say...
Applauding him?
Yeah, and I tell you why, that they feel it's unusual in Nigeria, that even while you are caught, even while people have seen you there, that you have done this, something terrible, people will say, hold on, but then he has, after a few days, he has gone to court. In fact, unfortunately or interestingly, his spokesman was on a news program yesterday, a news chat in the morning, defending his boss.
Doing his job.
Doing his job. Defending and, throwing shade at Nigerian University of Nigerian Suka for colluding to embarrass his principal or for, putting hands in the records of his principal, only for the principal, to resign in the afternoon or later in the day. But then it is, and people are saying, okay, you have not done what is right, but we are applauding you for resigning. No. Because in Nigeria, we are not known for resigning.
And that's where I started from. It's quite surprising because Nigerians do not resign that way. But again, there is no cause for applause here. Yeah. Why are you applauding him? Yes, someone who rose to the position of cabinet minister for innovation, science and technology. That's not a small appointment. Then all of a sudden you're bringing up this ministry. Exactly this certificate forgery story. It doesn't make any sense. It shows a lot of people did not, do their due diligence, like you said. They didn't do their job properly. Otherwise, it should never have gotten there. It was there for over 2 years, and now this is just popping up after all the vettings, after all the screening. Come on, we should do better as a people.
He being in charge of professionals in that ministry, or professors, or doctors, PhD holders, and all of those persons. Only for his certificate to have what we call comma. Here in
and again, Femi, if someone, now, it might not be, let's look at it this way. Perhaps he attended UNN and did not graduate. In that case, it shouldn't appear on your CV at all. Okay?
Like a graduate.
Exactly. It shouldn't appear. Just delete it, just erase it.
From him, he said he didn't collect the result at the time, but later he applied, I think in 2015, and his spokesperson said he paid only for the school not to have released the result. It's all over the place. I think in the coming days.
Yeah, it might be more complicated. There might be more to it than meets the eye. Exactly. So perhaps something went wrong somewhere.
We should get to the bottom of this.
Absolutely.
At least as Nigerians. We'll take a quick break. When we return, the newspapers segment is next. It's very interesting. You don't want to miss any part of that. Stay with us.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history.
Right, we start with the Guardian newspaper. Guardian for today. North Central. Anxiety lingers over insecurity and fate of displaced persons. North Central. Anxiety lingers over insecurity, fate of displaced persons. And then below that, you have those governors of the North Central. Mutwanga Plateau, Father earlier, Yancey earlier of Taraba. All right, is that Taraba? Benue, I beg your pardon. Mr. Ododo of Kogi State, Abdurrahman Abdurazak of Kwara State as the Governors Forum Chairman, and of course, Mr. Bago of Niger and Abdullah Isile of Nasarawa State, all of them there with concerns of security. All right, NERS, cost of food production rose by 36% in 2025. And Abbas, Abia lawmaker clash over Nnamdi Kanu's health condition. All right, Natasha returns to Senate after 6-month suspension and power generation. Interestingly, Ms. Natasha Putuga and the senator returned to the plenary, beaming with smile and all of those things, back to that same seat that she rejected.
Absolutely.
Actually, because, and that was what some of people said. You could have taken that seat and make your position known from there. So one of those concerns that she raised of being marginalized or, being set up and put to where our voice and our face will not be heard or seen. Now, Natasha returns to Senate after 6-month suspension and power generation offtake drop by 5% as discos lose 158 billion. For a community like ours where these companies located, I wonder, when you are talking about band A to E, what band is this band?
This one is band X.
This is abandoned?
No, it's appalling. The situation is abysmal. Yeah. The power situation here, and we keep saying it, it's failure of government at all levels. I keep telling politicians who always point fingers to the federal government, what are the states governments doing? That's the point. You have more resources. You have the opportunity, you have the freedom to actually generate, alternative sources of power. So what's your excuse? It's just, I see it as a lack of ideas, a lack of innovative ideas on the part of government at all levels, not just the federal government.
Yeah, no. Well, just like I said, not funny actually, but for people around this area, right? It's, when you're talking about band, that band in this place can be categorized as abandoned. The band is still there, but it's totally abandoned. And it's quite terrible. I was in the community yesterday, just strolling around, clearing my head, and I heard some persons complaining how people are throwing away their soup. So it's not only you that happened like a month ago. People are throwing away. Somebody told me the worth of what she had in her freezer that she had to throw away. I told you of somebody who was doing this locally made drink who threw away a bucket of what she has made. And people with frozen food, you pity them at this time because they just have to sell. If you're not selling, it will get, wasted. And who is paying? Nobody is paying. At the end of the day, you get to realize, especially in this area, that it's not just because there is a fault in the system. They have just refused not to bring it. To just restore the power. And it's so terrible.
Absolutely. I also spoke with someone, I spoke to someone who said for over a year now in this same community, not too far from here, that they've not had power supply because something went wrong with their transformer.
Yeah.
And these same people, the politicians will come during elections. You see these same people, the locals here, supporting the politicians, not holding them accountable. When they're supposed to speak up, they won't speak up. The politician will come and give them some, miserable handouts of 5,000, 10,000 naira, and they keep quiet.
I guess some of them...
They won't call them out.
I guess some of them do speak, but their voice or voices is on high, not loud enough. That community you're talking about, I'm aware as well. That was after they have paid 4 million naira to repair whatever is spoiled in their transformer, and the transformer got spoiled again. Less than 3 days of paying 4 million naira.
And they'll say, if they start talking, they'll say the governor is working. No, he's as if he's spending his own money. He's working, and yet electricity is not working in your community. Come on. Come on. Anyway,
all right.
Sometimes I don't just pity them, because when they're supposed to hold their leaders accountable, they will not. They choose to play politics with everything.
Right. Moving on, 2027, Tinubu sheds political baggage as embattled Minister Nnaji resigns. Interesting headline there. And new tax law exempts over 90% of Nigerians from payee, says Oyedele. An alleged genocide, congressman urges Trump to designate Nigeria country of particular concern. What's going on here? Because there's been this back and forth, especially from the U.S. Congress, or some of them.
Absolutely,
in the Congress, they're talking about a strategic genocidal wiping out of Christians in Nigeria. And the president has said repeatedly, there is nothing like that. It will not happen under him. That doesn't mean there are no security challenges, but there is nothing like calculated genocide against Christians in Nigeria.
I think it should be well investigated. I saw that letter yesterday, a letter written by U.S. Congressman Riley Moore, and he outlined, different cases, of what he believes to be Christian genocide in Nigeria. A lot of people being killed in Nigeria. He said Nigeria is headquarters to about 22 terrorist organizations, including Boko Haram, Ansaru, and so many others. He gave reasons how many Christians have been killed. He said in 2025 alone, up to 7,000 Christians have been killed. So much in that letter. So I think if you should have that kind of information, the federal government should investigate. And again, the congressman said it's not enough for Nigerian government to come out and deny those claims, saying that it's not true, that Christians and Muslims are, both suffering. He said that's not true, that's a very lame excuse coming from the federal government, that Christians are the ones suffering more. And I believe the federal government should investigate those claims.
Not just to wish it away, not just to parry the allegation, but to see, because we must see to it as well, either Christians or Muslims or atheists or people who doesn't even believe in anything. The right to life is sacrosanct for everybody. And if this is being calculated, or there is an angle to that, that being seen, because it's not enough, even as well, for the U.S. congressman or men to throw allegations at Nigeria as well. This is a sovereign state, and we have a right. In as much you want to show that we're a sovereign state, due diligence must be done to say, this is what it is, this is not what it is. And Senate 16-year passport ban for Nigerians convicted abroad. Senate 16-year passport ban for Nigerians convicted abroad. How about those of them convicted here?
In Nigeria.
How about some of them in the same red chamber who are having serious baggages? What should we do? Let's just move ahead. That will be from the Guardian newspaper. Sometimes you just look at some of those things. Giving Nigeria as a country a bad name wherever you are is terrible. It's terrible enough. It should not be, because it rubs on the rest of us, actually. And now, but for people with their barbaric and their suit and their agbada, raising hands at the plenary to churn out motions and bills, Nigerians will say, please excuse us. If everybody were to bring out their books, almost all of you here should be somewhere cooling off.
Absolutely.
All right, that will be all from the Guardian.
And from the front page of the Guardian newspaper, we moved to the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. On the Nigerian Tribune, certificate scandal. Uche Nnaji resigns as minister. Certificate scandal. Uche Nnaji resigns as minister. We talked about it at the opening of the program this morning, how, Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Jeffrey Uche Nnaji, has resigned his appointment as a cabinet minister in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You might want to read up details of that story. You can see right there on the front page. You get the details on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Away from that, moving to the top strip, INEC. Yakubu proceeds on terminal leave. INEC, Yakubu proceeds on terminal leave with a rider. Hands over to Agbamuche Mbu. Tinubu honors him with National Award. The national chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has finally, proceeded on terminal leave. He was appointed 10 years ago. That was October 2015. So it's been 10 years. He has spent 10 years in office and now he has to leave. He has proceeded on terminal leave and handed over tentatively. We have an acting chairman now in the person of Agbamuche Mbu. And of course, we understand that Mr. President might be picking a new INEC chairman during this week or next week as soon as possible. And we'll be talking about that later on this show. Away from that, still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. New tax regime. FG targets relief for 98% of workers. New tax regime. Federal government targets relief for 98% of workers. That will be interesting. If 98% of workers can get, reliefs from this new tax regime, it will really make a lot of sense to so many Nigerians, because Nigerians are currently grappling with, extreme poverty in some cases as a result of the weak power of our currency. Absolutely. Away from that, still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Osun LG funds. Supreme Court reserves judgments in state suit against AGF. Osun local government funds. Supreme Court reserves judgments in state suits against Attorney General of the Federation. You'll find that story on page 4. So much about local government funds in Osun State. So much. We've been talking about it, and it's a continuous conversation. We'll keep looking into that. Away from that, below that, we have another story. Tinubu writes Senate withholds assent to 2 bills. Says FG must prevent abuse of funds. Tinubu writes Senate withholds assent to 2 bills. Says federal government must prevent abuse of funds. You'll find that story on page 10. I saw details of that yesterday where Mr. President, declined assent to 2 bills. One of them for the Nigerian Institute of Transportation, an institution like that, and another one again, citing, references that has to do with financial, harmonization. It wouldn't really make any sense. There were some loopholes in the bills sent to him by the National Assembly. Again, I think they should do their jobs properly before sending bills. This is not the first time Mr. President is declining assents to bills, citing some errors, some discrepancies. Right. I think they should seriously look into it. Before now, was it not Mr. Dakuku Peterside who actually challenged the National Assembly that they are not doing a good job? No intellectual job is being done. He said most of the bills they are pushing are simply copy and paste. Yeah. And he gave records, from, several decades ago. He said they'll just pick some of these bills, copy everything, paste the same thing, and send it again for passing.
Not even reworking.
Exactly. So I think we should do better. The National Assembly should do better as an organization. Away from that, still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. ACF wants FG to protect Dangote refinery in nation's interest. Arawa Consultative Forum wants federal government to protect Dangote refinery in nation's interest. You'll find that story on page 27. Below that, under the health section, we have CDC ends universal recommendation for COVID-19 vaccine. CDC ends universal recommendation for COVID-19 vaccine. You'll find that story on page 10. Ogun Airport records first commercial flight. Ogun Airport records first commercial flight as NCAA approves operations in Ekiti Airport. You find that story on page 3. So now Ogun Airport has kicked off, and of course Ekiti will also be kicking off very soon. Finally, from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, SANU, NASU to protest October 9 over FG's failure to meet demands. Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, non-academic staff Association of the Universities as well, to protest October 9 over federal government's failure to meet demands. You'll find details of that story on page 10 of the Nigerian Tribune. And that'll be all from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
And away from the Nigerian Tribune, let's look at our next point of call. And of course, that will be the Punch newspaper. Countdown to 2027, Tinubu to pick new INEC chair this week. I was wondering, I don't know how it works at INEC. Is there not any history of succession? The most senior person is Ms. May Agbamuche, who has been there, who understands everything for years. Can she just be upgraded? I don't know if it works that way. But just looking out for someone else, by the way, possibly who is new to the system, because now Madam Agbamuche that we're talking about has understudy, has overseen in different capacity, rose to that level.
Yeah, the most senior
of being
official,
the most senior
right
person. Yeah. And sometimes you wonder, why are we still looking for someone else? Someone who understands the system completely and possibly who every other staff member, they know.
Well, for me, it has become just like other, ministries and parastatals in Nigeria, where, of course, the permanent secretary will be the most senior, understands everything. But the appointment of minister is still political. That's the problem. That's the point.
Well, this is not a ministry, actually.
That's it. That's what I'm saying. He's just working as if, yes, he's working as if it's a ministry. Yeah, that's what's going on.
Because you now bring somebody who is entirely new to the system, and he will now superintend others that have always been there, and he will now have to be walked through the ropes and all of those things.
They will have to school the person. Yeah,
all of those things. Well, it's interesting. Of course, you see the picture of the man now outgoing. Because he's outgoing now. He has proceeded on terminal leave and added over. Actually, many persons didn't know the name of this woman before, but the face is always there. When you look at INEC stable at the highest level, she has always been there. All right. And Yakubu steps aside. President consults Council of State selection process under spotlight. Of course, we have it under spotlight again today. Police pensioners rally for protest after talks collapse. Court is kept for in Lagos communities. Tinubu access to National Assembly bills over policy clash. That sometimes you hear this court is thing and you wonder what's the attraction. Actually, I don't know the attraction. Okay, you feel powerful and then untouchable, but then your life could be snuffed out at any point in time. That's the danger.
Yeah, they are not even being powerful for me. I see it as a sign of weakness. When I was an undergraduate, I knew people were caught. It's a sign of weakness. People, simply because they believe they can't stand on their own, they have to join cults. So for me, I see it as a sign of weakness.
Some of them see themselves as the untouchable. People who can do what they want.
But you can do whatever you want.
Get any girl who can spend the money.
Exactly.
And when you look through them, some of them, with what we hear, what we see, they bring in people from different parts. The ones who are bookworms, the ones who have skills, the ones who have money, and all of those things gather themselves together and begin to gallivant all over the place.
And sometimes, if you want to engage in politics, you have to belong. But again, I've proven all that wrong from my personal experience. You don't have to belong anywhere. You can actually stand your ground and not have to join any cause group. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really make sense. You have to look over your shoulder, even after graduation. Exactly.
For the rest of their lives. Even when they renounce, sometimes they keep looking. That's
absolutely.
And especially if you have been involved in heats before, you will keep looking.
Absolutely.
At your neck, at your back. Now, how about intervention stalled minority leaders' impeachment? And World Bank dismisses Nigeria's single-digit inflation target and displaced the Borno resident to recount Boko Haram invasion. How? Borno that is safe, everywhere that is safe. How are they displaced in Nigeria? I think the NSA should have an answer for that. That will be all from the point.
All right. From the Punch newspaper, we move to the front page of the Nation newspaper. On the Nation newspaper this morning, certificate scandal. Naji resigns ministerial position. Certificate scandal. Naji resigns ministerial position. With riders, decision due to sustained blackmail, persecution. Femi, we talked about it. So he's saying the decision here is due to sustained blackmail and persecution. Like I said, there might be more to it than Ms. I do sincerely wish he grants a television interview and tell Nigerians exactly what the true story is exactly. Because if he's been blackmailed, then Nigerians should know. He shouldn't just chicken out. He shouldn't just resign. If truly he has a point to prove, he should let Nigerians know. But if he's guilty, then of course, he should just resign. He has done the right thing by resigning. And away from that, we still have another...
and some should say, maybe some are saying he should be prosecuted as well. Because if actually those allegations are true, then you have lied on that oath, which is criminal. Yeah. And there should be deterrence. It's not enough to say, don't sin again, go away. Because others will do it as well.
Femi, that's the problem.
And when we come for this prosecution, nobody should say it's because he's from this part of the country, it's because he belongs to this religion, it's because some people don't like him. No, we can't have a functional system like that.
Absolutely. So what has happened to Betty Edu?
Yeah.
What has happened? What has happened? What has happened? All that noise, all that story, all that drama, everything just so is it enough
and the
for
woman
a minister?
Before her,
exactly.
Sadia Umar Farouk. Same ministry.
Exactly. That one that said
and the money.
That one that had no idea what to do. So is it enough to resign?
The same ministry that was feeding children that were home during COVID.
Well, like I said, we are not serious in our fight against corruption, and it starts from the top. Mr. President should take full responsibility. See, everything is happening under you, Mr. President. You should take full responsibility for this. If we're in a mess, if the cabinet is in a mess, Mr. President should take sole responsibility. And that is my opinion, as well as those of other Nigerians. Away from that, still on the front page of The Nation newspaper this morning. Below that banner headline, we have another rider. President accepts resignation. President accepts resignation. Still talking about the resignation of Jeffrey Uche Naji as Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology. Away from that, moving to the top strip, scheduled flights begin at Ogun Gateway Airport. Scheduled flights begin at Ogun Gateway Airport. With the rider, NCAA confirms Ekiti Airport. You find details of those stories on page 6. Why are you laughing about Ekiti Airport?
You know why I'm laughing is when it sounds okay to have airport, actually, we've had this conversation. But now that the NCAA has said, this airport right now, we recognize is fine. But do you know the interesting thing? Most roads that leak into
I knew it. I knew that was
terrible roads.
So
what exactly should people be happy about?
Yeah.
Okay, you come by flight. So what happens? Will everybody be coming by flight? If you come from Osun to Ekiti, you are in trouble. You are in heavy trouble.
The last time I went to Ekiti, I regretted it.
Akura to Ekiti, there should not be more than 40 minutes. I don't know the state of roads now. I mean, the state of construction, because they started something on it. It was horrible. So what's the fanfare? You have an airport, yet the roads are terrible.
The roads are...
Will everybody be flying by air?
It's quite laughable for a state that does not have roads. I knew that was what I knew it. I knew that was what you were going to say. Airport. But no roads.
What's the I'm sure. I don't have the statistics, but I'm sure 70% of Nigerians have never seen the airport in their life, except they are working there. Talk less of flying.
Exactly, because of the cost. Yeah, that's true.
It's costly, and it's not a regular thing. Yeah. Sometimes it's based on who is involved. Some see it as luxury, and for the high and mighty who do heavy volume of business that they have to move in and out, many persons don't even care.
Yeah, absolutely.
No roads. But NCA have just recognized the airport.
Congratulations,
Ekiti.
People. Quite interesting one right there. I love Nigeria. Don't you love Nigeria? There's always something to laugh about, actually. Still on the front page of The Nation newspaper this morning. Away from that story, Oyedele, 98% of workers to be exempted from pay. 98% of workers to be exempted from pay as you earn. Talking about the new tax regime to kick off in January 2026. You find details of that story on page 3 of The Nation newspaper this morning. Away from that, Supreme Court reserves judgment in Osun Council funds. I'll take that again. Supreme Court reserves judgment in Osun Council fund suits. Agbamu Chimbu, acting chair, as Yakubu bows out of INEC. You find details of those stories on page 3 as well. The drama playing out in Osun State as far as the local government funds are concerned seems never-ending. I think, Femi, why can't the court just give clear-cut judgments? Because what we've seen so far, Femi, is that most of these cases, the High Court cases, the appeal court rulings, there is always, a space for interpretation to suit, both parties.
Majorly left to interpret.
Exactly. So it's all about interpretation. The PDP will have a part that will suit them, and the APC will definitely have a part that will suit them.
Right.
Away from that, I'm still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. I guess it should be the final one from this page. Federal government to refinance expensive debt portfolio, says Edu. Federal government to refinance expensive debt portfolio, says Edu. That's Wale Edu right there. You might want to read up details of that story on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And that'll be all from the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning. That also brings us to a conclusion of the newspaper review segments of the show. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we dive into other critical matters. Join us again.